Well, welcome to 2020. Today is going to be a video unlike any video I've done before because I'm going to do a reaction video to another YouTuber. First of all, I want to say that I think it's pretty important when you visit a new country that you haven't been before that your first impressions are almost always going to be pretty inaccurate because you have no context. Unless you're with somebody who's from there, spent a long time there. But today's video is about a YouTuber, fairly new to Colombia, but a seasoned traveler, and it's gotten quite a bit of notice. This YouTuber's name is Alina, and I want to preface my analysis of her video. There's a lot being said about this video, and I, for one, actually believe her. I believe that everything that she says is the truth as she saw it, as she understood it. I think there are some things that may or may not be up to interpretation, because when you're in the heat of the moment, you might misread something. But that's neither here nor there. The purpose of this video, this reaction video, isn't really to do with her, but it's more about the general situation. And so let's get right to it.
What I just went through, I'm sitting down to film this right now just to, I don't know, maybe this is a sort of therapy, or I don't know, to remember this fucking crazy moment. It is New Year's Eve. It is fucking New Year's Eve. And I just had, I don't know, one of the most terrifying things of my life happened.
I feel her emotion, and I believe her. I don't believe this is contrived at all. And, you know, trolls are going to say what they have to say, but you can't help but feel the truth in what she's saying. Now, her video is titled, "I Was Almost Robbed and Shot in Colombia." I may be paraphrasing there.
So I started walking on this thing at about 3 o'clock, and there was nobody else on it. And technically this breaks my own rule, where usually when I travel, I try and never be in super secluded places unless, you know, I know the area super well.
Okay, that walkway that you saw is going from Santa Marta down to the ocean, or the Caribbean. And she says right in there that she broke her own rule. And I think it's important to set guidelines for yourself, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Sometimes you assume certain things about a place, and it may or may not be true. And the only thing you have to rely on is your intuition or that inner voice. And personally, I never really ignore that inner voice, and I don't recommend you do. So if you've set rules or guidelines for yourself, stick with them.
I guess I know why now that there's nobody on there.
You can watch the complete video on her channel, and her channel's under her name, which I've got on the screen here. It's considerably longer. And she set the stage of this walkway that's relatively new, and it's a beautiful walkway, and she decided to take it down to the beach, but there was no foot traffic. Now, when you're in the heat of the day, middle of the day, when should be normally a fair amount of activity, particularly in a tourist area, and you're not seeing foot traffic, then you kind of wonder, why is nobody using this new bridge? But there was road traffic. So let's take a look further here.
But below it, there is, a neighborhood where obviously, I probably wouldn't go walking by myself.
Yeah, again, it's her spidey sense going off, and normally she wouldn't go there, and she broke her rules. And again, this isn't to beat up on her, because everything in this video is actually relatively typical of first-timers, to Colombia or even any other country. And so that is my point, to point this out. Ultimately, I think she did very well. We're seeing somebody who's really stressed and in a little trauma.
There was this taxi that was like coming up beside me, and at first I just thought he was hassling me to get a ride, why are you walking, come get in the taxi. Oh my god, I should have gotten in that taxi. taxi. Because the guy wouldn't leave me alone. Like, the taxi kept going up beside me and he was saying stuff in Spanish. And I couldn't, understand him, fully. But for some reason, even then, I got this weird inkling like he was trying to protect me and he was saying I was being followed. He was holding up all the cars behind him, trying to tell me something, and I just couldn't understand him. And because usually, you're used to getting hassled in these countries, you don't always know who to trust.
Now, I think this is maybe the crux of the video. In Colombia in particular, and I've traveled to 20 some countries, but in Colombia in particular, taxis are some of your best source of information and safety information. She didn't understand the language, but what she experienced, again, relatively typical. You're in a new place and you don't really know who to trust, and trust is a difficult thing. You don't want to put trust in somebody that's going to, take you for a ride, figuratively. Here you have a taxi, she, even without understanding language, got that she was trying to tell her something. And she even got the sense that he was trying to protect her. But the distrust of the trap that she may fall into if she goes along with that kind of superseded her intuition. And again, you always want to listen to those voices. Now, I'm going to get to, towards the end of this video, a couple clips from a different YouTuber that's going to point out something I think is very important about Colombia.
There's like a bus stop on the left side of the road, and I remember there was a woman that was standing there waiting for the bus. But I went on the top part. I wanted to keep walking. And literally, as I was on this top part, I hear somebody behind me, and I turn around, and it's this young guy, age of, I don't know, like maybe even late teens or early 20s or something, and I could just, feel like just bad vibes.
Okay, now understand that she's walking, but she is a YouTuber, and she's a vlogger-style YouTuber, like Gabriel Traveler, for example. So she's walking with actually the newer model of this camera, and she's holding it out, and she's, talking into the camera. And when you do that, you're not fully aware of what's going on. It's easy to get yourself into a problem. As you regular viewers know, one of my rules is that I don't travel to a new place unless I go with someone. And it can be a 90-pound girl. It's not for protection. It's for information, but it's also for another set of eyes. So that while I'm busy doing what it is I'm doing, there's somebody else kind of keeping things aware. And it's not because I go to places that I feel are dangerous. It's just common sense if you're going to a place that you don't really know, to have that extra set of eyes if you're going to be occupied.
I once again break my own rule where I have tried to put it in my head that if anybody tries, to do something to rob you, just hand over your phone, just hand over your wallet. It's not worth it. Just literally throw the purse, at him. I know that's what I was supposed to do. I don't know why. It just hit me where as soon as I saw him and he said something to me, I started to run towards him.
Now, through this video, she tends to blame herself, and she's a little hard on herself, in my opinion. She's right that one of the rules is typically to, carry a fake wallet or throw away a cell phone. And if somebody tries to rob you, you just give them that and just move on. And I get that, but I lived for a few years in Cuenca, Ecuador, and they regularly teach to do that, but also to run, or just run, scream and run, because in Cuenca, Ecuador, you have these rivers, and it's a beautiful place to walk, but in the evening they can be pretty dangerous, and so there's just typical advisories where they're always talking about it locally and in the gringo community that, yeah, just give it to them. It's not worth getting hurt. But your alternative is to yell and run. The yelling will startle the criminal and, run if you're able to run. She's a young, fit lady, and I'm sure that she could move pretty well.
But I just bolted. Like, my instinct was I turned around and I bolted past him. He tried to grab me. He almost got me, but I kept running. And, like, I have angels. Like, I swear to God, I have angels or something looking over me because the bus was there. There was a bus. And the lady that was waiting for the bus stop was, like, just getting on it. And I think, as soon as the people saw me, running, they understood what was happening. And so they were like, oh, waving me in.
Well, I think that's rather fortunate. Now, here's where, the adrenaline going and obviously a lot of fear, her perception of this may not be exactly the perception of other people that are there. Maybe it is exactly, we'll never know. But the point is, she thinks that she did something wrong there that just happened to work out. And personally, I don't think she did anything wrong there. I think that, if you can run like that, it's a viable option, and it certainly worked for her. And who's to say if you hand over a wallet and a phone, they're going to stop there?
And as I got in the bus, that's when the guy pulled out a gun. Because I didn't see that when he was approaching me, he didn't have any weapons, but obviously I could tell that he meant trouble. But as I literally like jumped, like hands in first to the bus, he pulled out the gun and pointed it at me, and like I genuinely thought he was like going to shoot into the bus.
Now here's where I've read some comments, and I'll mention them, but I personally, I think it's kind of unfortunate because it's just blind speculation, and I think, without having any other information, you just take her at her word, and the whole point is people shouldn't be looking at this video judging her, but they should take away any lessons that they can learn from it. It should be a positive thing. Personally, I think it was a good that she posted up her information. Now, some of the things being said is, well, if she ran past him and she dove into the bus, how was it that he had the gun in her face? And the criminals, if they're going to use a knife or a gun, they'll pull it out at the beginning to shock people and scare them. They wouldn't do it after you already ran away. I'm reading all kinds of things, but it's kind of, in my opinion, nonsensical. I think it's just typical internet trolling because, frankly, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. I couldn't make any judgment either way. The only thing we have is what she says. You have to take it at face value. Now, like I said, when the adrenaline's going and you got, fear pumping through your veins, and, obviously she was kind of panicked, and rightfully so. You could misread certain things. I'll say that, but that doesn't mean that she's making anything up. Personally, I think she's saying everything as she saw it and she believed it. And furthermore, I don't have any information to doubt it. So as far as I'm concerned, what she said, I take it at face value.
Because I guess what happened, what I think that taxi driver was trying to warn me of, is that, there was people, I don't know if there was more than one, following me from underneath the path. Like, they had climbed up that hill from, where that village is, and I think they were tracking me as I was, walking down this bridge and, waiting for their moment.
Now, that seems pretty logical to me, and I believe the taxis would know that, and I think, as in typical fashion, which I'm excited to get to in a minute, I think that taxi was trying to help her out. But again, the distrust of knowing people, the language, situation, kind of paralyzed her from going down that path.
He probably would have shot me like the rule in these countries are that if you just hand over your stuff, more than likely they won't, you know, hurt you. They just want the stuff. So I don't know why I didn't do that. I don't know why I didn't just hand it over. I just had this like gut moment instinct to just fucking run towards that bus. Thank God it was still there, and that's how I got away.
Well, I've already said it, but I'll say it again. I really think she's being too hard on herself, and what she did was not wrong. So, you know, take that for what it's worth.
I think that if you stay in the like central hub of the historic difference, like if you're around the Santa Marta Cathedral, where there's all those restaurants, it's a super touristy area. If you have your accommodation near there and you more or less stay in that area, you're probably not going to have anything to worry about. It is a fairly safe area. There's a lot of police that patrol that area.
Okay, you can see this was in the same video, but she stopped her video, got a shower, fixed her hair, certainly far more calm, and was seeing, trying to, as a YouTuber, give out some good information. Now, I do want to mention something about the information she gave out. You know, if you're in that touristy area and you've got these people walking around, then, you know, you're going to be safer. It depends on how you look at it. First of all, what she was a victim of is called a crime of opportunity. So she happened to go there. There happened to be a scumbag that was there and decided to try to take advantage of her in that situation. It was just a matter of opportunity. As a matter of fact, since that bridge is not trafficked, I doubt he was laying in wait. He probably, hey, look at that, we could score. But understand that criminals, that's their job. Their job is being a criminal. And so there's certain things to realize. Criminals rarely are up early. So if you want to be safe, get up and out early. Criminals tend to be late sleepers because they're up at night, because that's when people are more prey than normal. So understanding that they're criminals and it's their job, so they can come roll out of bed at noon and they go out, and where are they going to go? They're going to go where the opportunities are going to be the greatest. And where is that going to be? Well, tourists with money in their pocket, because tourists came and have money to spend. And so that's actually the target area. Now, it depends on what kind of crime. So that's good for pickpockets primarily. But I will say that 1 o'clock in the afternoon in Cuenca, there's this big outdoor market. It's a huge place. And it was a regular thing to read from locals and even sometimes from the gringos, at least a handful of times a month, about somebody who would be held up there, usually at knife point, occasionally gunpoint, sometimes 2 or 3 people. They would hold people up and take whatever they could take. And it wasn't unusual to hear about a stabbing that occurred there. Now, this is where there's hundreds or thousands of people in broad daylight, and this can occur. So you always want to, keep your eyes open for that. Now, she did mention there's a lot of police in that area, and they do a pretty good job here in Colombia in tourist areas, because, tourism is very important. It greatly depends on where you are in Colombia or anywhere else. Bigger cities tend to have more crime, more issues, more desperation. Nice thing about living in a place that's under 300,000 people in Armenia, Colombia, is we've got virtually none of that stuff. I just wanted to point out that just because you're in that situation with, you're in tourists and there's police around, you can go ahead and, let your radar down. No. Now, do you have to run afraid? No. And I'll talk about that in another video. I've actually talked about it a number of times in the past. I travel around and I never worry, but I am cautious about doing certain things. So let me get to the second part of this.
¿Piensas que esta buena idea preguntar gentes vendes o no?
No,
No, no, no.
todo el mundo no. Menos
Ok.
mal aquí sí, porque es que
Sí,
acá
sí.
uno llega y pum y salen.
Vale.
Pero...
Gracias.
Okay, now this is another YouTuber, and this is an interesting person. Both of these videos are pointed out to some of you viewers. I think Craig might have pointed both of them out, but I'm not sure. I think this is really important about Colombia. Now, this YouTuber has never been in the Western Hemisphere, and this was his first day. He was in Bogota. He's from Israel, and he's been to Russia and Ukraine and around Europe, different places. First time ever in the Western Hemisphere. For some reason, his Spanish was reasonably decent. But you notice he was trying to change his dollars, which in the next clip, he had already changed it. But he's trying to change his dollars. He's going around and asking, he's got this $100 bill. They're advising him, no, you keep that in your pocket. You don't just go up and ask people. And they're giving him very good advice. They're not taking advantage of him. And this is something that I really want to talk a little more about. But let's watch the next clip, the last clip.
Sí, sí, sí. Eso. Me gusta esta, sí.
Una bolsita. ¿Sabes? Pero hay que tirar algo mejor. Sácate la plata de ahí y te la metes en el bolsillo bien guardada. Porque ahí.
Aquí es mejor. Aquí.
Aquí,
Vale.
aquí.
Sí, sí, vale.
Porque ahí.
No, porque ahí yo veo si gentes, ¿no?
No, al contrario, ¿qué hacen?
Ah.
Cogen y te hacen así.
Okay, what you saw there was he was in there buying a belt, and he had the money in his t-shirt pocket, and it was kind of sticking out. It was in pesos, but he had about $100 apparently, and because he had just changed that $100. And what do you have? You have two people behind the counter giving him advice about how to keep his money. And they even show him, because he thinks, well, wouldn't it be better to be up here? And they're showing him, this is what criminals do. And the camera didn't catch that, but they're showing him a technique and why he needs to keep it down. And you hear off camera a guy also chiming in and giving him advice. Now, this is what I want to say about Colombia. Colombia is one of the most amazing places in the world when it comes to this. I have said many times to my viewers when I go down and I walk through the protests and they say, aren't you afraid? And I go, no, I could never be afraid here, because if anything happened, everybody within sight would be running to help me. It's how they are here. So, I mean, for every bad person that's going to try to do something to you, you've probably got tens of thousands out there that are looking out for you, that want to make sure that you're safe, that will give you advice. Hardly a time goes by when I'm not out with my camera getting at least once, usually many people mentioning throughout the day about how I want to be careful with that, and giving me tips and hints and saying, okay, but don't go over to this area. This is the best thing I could tell you if you're traveling in Colombia. And her whole video speaks to this and why it probably wouldn't help because of other situations. Don't travel alone. If you go to, for example, if you decide to go to Santa Marta like she did and you want to walk around, maybe you're a YouTuber or you're just a tourist and you want to take pictures, have that other person for the reasons I described earlier. Find out if the person that's with you doesn't know the area very well. Ask the taxi drivers. They'll clue you in. They'll tell you. It's a fantastic resource. You don't have to go out and hire some expensive guard that's armed to protect you, because Colombia's not that kind of a place. You're in a big city, you're going to get crime. You're in a tourist area, you're going to get crime. I don't care where you are in this world. You ever walk around Vegas at night? How's Chicago, New York City? I mean, things happen. And Colombia is no different. Colombia just gets a black eye because of its history, but that's history. The Colombian people are very protective. They're very friendly. They're wonderful people. And it's a huge resource. It's a huge advantage. And it's one of the things that I love about being in Colombia. And it's one of the things that's always kept me protected because I pay attention. I listen to what's said. And what got in her way was that innate distrust because you don't know who to trust. So I'm here to tell you that for the most part, you can trust people. And if there's something, somebody tells you something, just go bounce it off somebody else, you know, and see if they confirm that. So that's my video of the, to open up the new year. I hope that gives it perspective. I feel bad for this girl and I wish her well. She's got about 300 videos out, but they're pretty popular and I could see why. So if you get a chance, go check her out, go check out that video and keep all of these things in mind. And with that, I'm going to end it for today. And I want to thank you for always tuning in. I appreciate it.
Bye.